Hi there!
Welcome back to Lergle Stories. My name's Logan and I'm glad to see you. We're going to be starting a special series today. We're going to be reading from a book called Mr. Hadlow Has. And this book is a collection of short stories. So we're going to do one video per story for the next few days. This book, Mr. Hadlow Has, is by Geoff Hadlow. We're going to say a big thank you to Austin Macauley Publishers for letting us read this book. And I'm going to leave a link to this book in the description below, so you can go to the website and buy a copy if you like to. Also remember, subscribe to Lergle Stories so that you don't miss any videos. I'll read from the back to let you know what we're going to be starting. Mr. Hadlow has a large young family who care for creatures and toys in a rambling house and garden near the sea. Mr. Hadlow's children and animals get involved in suspense-filled and humorous situations. Snakes, tarantulas, motorbikes, model dinosaurs, dogs, chickens, hamsters, and 5 children are all part of the entertaining life at Mr. Hadlow's house. The Mr. Hadlow Has short stories are engaging and fun tales for children to enjoy reading and for parents to enjoy reading to their children. And I'll certainly enjoy reading them to you. The first story is entitled Mr. Hadlow Has a Son. Mr. Hadlow has a son. His son's name is Jude. Jude is 8 years old and he owns a snake. The snake's name is Reg. Reg is a python and is as long as Jude is tall and is as thick as a big cucumber. Reg lives in his warm vivarium and spends most of his time soundly sleeping. Sounds good to me. Reg gets hungry every few weeks and likes to eat a rat. Mr. Hadlow buys frozen rats from the pet shop. In the packet, frozen rats look like dark frozen fish fingers. When it's Reg's feeding time, Jude will take one frozen rat out of the freezer and let it defrost and warm up. When it's ready, Jude will dangle the defrosted dead rat by its tail in front of Reg's flickering tongue. I'm sure if you have a pet, they eat some funny things. Reg, the snake, uses his tongue to taste the air. Reg loves the smell of a rat and strikes at the rat with his jaws wide open. He wraps his body around the rat, thinking that it is still alive, and squeezes it. Reg then slowly swallows the rat whole, all in one. After a while, there is just the rat's long, skinny tail sticking out of Reg's mouth. The rat makes a big lump in Reg's body as it slowly slides down to his stomach. There. Once the tip of the tail disappears past Reg's tongue, he settles down to sleep. Jude checks on Reg every day. Sometimes he takes Reg from his vivarium and lets Reg slither freely across the floor and over guests that come to visit, if they feel brave enough. Sometimes Jude lets Reg swim in a bath of warm water. Reg loves to sidewind, slide, slither, and swim in the bath. One day, Jude went to check on Reg. He looked in his vivarium, but couldn't see the snake. Jude noticed that the vivarium glass door was slightly open. He checked under the vivarium to see if Reg was there, no Reg. Jude looked behind the vivarium. No Reg. Jude swiftly searched the whole room. Still no Reg. Jude searched the kitchen. He looked in every cupboard, on top of every cupboard, and under every cupboard. There was no sign of Reg. Where do you think he's gone? Jude plucked up some courage and told his dad, Mr. Hadlow, that Reg was missing. Mr. Hadlow exclaimed, "Oh, bother! I hope he's going to be okay. We'd better search the whole house and the garden." So they did. Mr. Hadlow and Jude looked in every place they could think of. They looked in every nook and every cranny. Reg the snake could not be found anywhere. Days passed, still no sign of Reg. Weeks passed, still no Reg. Months passed, no Reg. The summertime turned into autumn time. Reg had vanished. Winter came and the days grew cold. Rather than let his family put on extra jumpers, Mr. Hadlow decided to turn on the heating in his house. However, the heating wasn't coming on when Mr. Hadlow turned the heating dial. Mr. Hadlow called the heating engineer and asked him if he could come and fix the heating. The heating engineer said he was busy, but could get there the next day. Mr. Hadlow's family put on extra jumpers. The next day finally came, and just before lunchtime, the heating engineer knocked at Mr. Hadlow's front door. Mr. Hadlow showed the heating engineer through to the kitchen, where the heating boiler was fixed to the wall. Mr. Hadlow left the heating engineer to undo the front cover of the boiler and to try and find out what had gone wrong. The heating engineer undid his big tool bag and took out a screwdriver. Mr. Hadlow went to read with Jude in the front room of the house. They were reading The Gruffalo. Have you read The Gruffalo? I have. It's such a good story. Jude and Mr. Hadlow were enjoying the book in the quietness of the house. Then all of a sudden, there was a loud cry from the kitchen. "Ah! Snake!" screamed the heating engineer. Jude and Mr. Hadlow ran to the kitchen to find that inside the heating boiler, Reg was curled tightly around the wires and the pipes. Reg looked thin, but well. His squeezing of his body inside the boiler had broken some wires and stopped the house's heating from working. Mr. Hadlow carefully unwrapped Reg from the boiler's gubbins and passed him to Jude. Mr. Hadlow made the heating engineer a cup of tea to calm him down, and Jude placed Reg back inside his warm vivarium. Jude went to the freezer to defrost a rat for Reg, and the heating engineer mended the boiler. Mr. Hadlow's family were able to take some jumpers off as the house warmed up. Isn't that amazing? How the snake managed to survive for all that time with no food. Some animals in the animal kingdom can survive for a very long time without eating anything at all. We can't. We have to eat every day, or we get really, really hungry. But snakes can do it. I'm glad that Jude found Reg again, even though he had broken the heating. What kind of pets do you have? And how often do they eat? Have a think about it. See you next time. Bye!